So there we go. Hello, everyone. I know you have choices here at Otakon 2024. You could be at Flow. Thank you for being here instead. This is the Akira Toriyama Career Retrospective. Thank you so much for coming. As you probably know, and if you don't, I'm sorry to be the one to deliver the news. We lost Akira Toriyama earlier this year. I am so honored and appreciative to be here to talk about this man and his work and his career and his legacy. What's on tap for the next hour here? Some introductions, some brief biographical overview of Toriyama himself. We're going to do a tour through his primary manga works, a whole bunch of other stuff, and if we have time at the end, I would love to do some Q&A. Who is in the room with you right now? Hello, my name is Mike. I go by Vegito EX online. I am the only one from the site in the room right now. Here in spirit with us, as always, Julian. You may see him around as Saya Jedi online. He is in Japan. He did stuff for this panel, so I am incredibly appreciative for that. Julian's been working with me since 2002, honestly. And then Heath, of course, founder of Kanzenshuu, that I performed a little fusion dance with many years ago. Appreciative for everything he's done for me and for the site and prepping for this. And then last but not least, taking an extended break from daily Dragon Ball workings, but of course, a founding member of the site, Jake. You may see him as Herms online. That is us. What do we do? From news to guides to translations to community, we do it all. I run a website called Kanzenshuu. Please make websites again. Get off of social media. Make your own website. I don't care if it's on GeoCities, if that's still around, by all means, please just make a website. NeoCities? All right. We need independent websites again. We are one of the only remaining Dragon Ball fan sites. I've been doing this since 1998. Still around. What do? We thank you. We buy stuff. We tell you what things say because we love it and we think someone should do that for you and for Toriyama. So that's. I'm so appreciative that y'all are here. Thank you so much. Let's talk about Toriyama, though. Enough about me. Quick facts. He was born April 5th, 1955 in Nagoya in Japan. He left us earlier this year on March 1st. Likes, women, cars, model kits, sleeping, Star Wars, Godzilla, Ultraman. Dislikes, working. The published works of Toriyama, I'm going to share just a few of them with you this evening. Manga and beyond, it's incredible just how much this guy put out over the course of his life. A couple of folks you may hear me mention, or you may not, or they may pop up as like side characters along the way. There are some very specific folks here. Kazuhiko Torishima is going to be one of the first. He's the other half of the Tori team here. He was Toriyama's original editor at Shueisha at Weekly Shonen Jump. He basically found Toriyama, took him under his wing. You're going to hear about Hisashi Tanaka, who was Toriyama's first assistant. We had Matsuyama, who was his next assistant. We had Sueno Matsumoto, who was the leader, the president of Toriyama's fan club, and then later went on to found a little company called Caramel Mama. Caramel is going to come up in a little bit. They made the Daizenshuu, so he went from fan to professional along the way. Two other editors you're going to hear about are Yu Kondo and Fuyuto Takeda. Toriyama had 3 editors over the course of Dragon Ball specifically, and those are the ones. So the short story, Toriyama, early work in advertising publication after school, and then by his own words and his own admission, spends a year doing nothing in particular. He quits. At age 23, he submits his first comic, only to be rejected. Eventually, he catches the eye of the aforementioned Kazuhiko Torishima. He gets the chance to do some one-shots, and finally gets a real full serialization. Toriyama doesn't realize you can get or have an assistant. So he puts out the call, hey, can I have an assistant? Becomes one of the richest people in Japan. And he does it all over again, but even bigger and better with his next series. These are a couple very early drawings from interviews and magazines we have with Toriyama, back when he was still drawing himself as himself in the early Dr. Slump days. Little quote there, by the time Dr. Slump began, had about 1,000 pages of manuscript that got rejected. So you can imagine just how much work he was putting in the earliest days. Throughout this presentation, I want you to remember, people still tell me this. They have no idea this came out in English a couple years ago. This is Akira Toriyama's Blank Piece Theater. It was 3 volumes in Japan. Viz compiled it into one giant hardcover edition. Go buy it. It's like $20. It's available digitally as well. People tell me that I didn't know this was available. It's out there. Go buy it. So many of the one-shots we're going to talk about today are available in there. Throughout the presentation, look for the little Viz logo. It's going to denote what are either in manga theater or in some of the other releases they've done. So what are these one-shots? You may have heard me say that phrase. So Toriyama, obviously, his first real series is Dr. Slump, but along the way, he's doing short series. He does a few that are entries in the Jumper Readers Award, so the manga artists get to enter their own contest and win prizes. So a couple in a row here for the 9th, 10th, and 11th. He won, and he got a free trip to Europe. Next year, he only got 2nd place there with Madmatic. And then in the 11th and final Jump Readers competition, he only got 3rd there for Chobit. So those are what some of those one-shots are. They were kind of interpersonal competitions for the manga artists. But then there's also stuff in some side magazines. So the example I show here is Fresh Jump. You'll hear that mentioned a couple times. That's a magazine that they put out. It's no longer in existence, but it was a good place for manga artists to do some one-shots, experiment with things, hype up some up-and-coming artists as well. So these are where these things came from. So Toriyama's earliest works, Awawa World and Mysterious Rain Jack. Think about rain, think about drought. You're going to hear it not once, not twice, maybe 3 times along the way here. These were Toriyama's entries into some early contests. They didn't win. We're going to call them unpublished. They did kind of get published along the way in Birdland Press and his official fan club, which we talked about. Rain Jack actually many years later, I think about 4 years later, did get published in Weekly Shonen Jump itself. The thing about these is they're basically, lols, I like Superman, Star Wars, here's a manga. To the point where they show some of these title pages now, they can't show what he drew here because it's just Star Wars characters. This is from the Jump Ryu DVD from a few years ago where it shows him drawing and some of his works here. And it's just so funny that Shueisha has to blur out Akira Toriyama artwork because they don't own the rights to it. But here we are. Publication begins in late 1978. We get Wonder Island. We get a sequel called Wonder Island 2. And we get another one called Today on Harai Island. So we get stuff in Weekly Shonen Jump. Every once in a while, they'll do an extra issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. It's just, here's extra stuff. Here's one-shots. What is there to say about these? Really big, bold caricature designs. We got this giant block lettering for sound effects. We basically have the Incha canon here years not actually too many years before it comes out. We get his establishment of character archetypes. We have shared elements that will resurface later. We also have just absolutely terrible, incomprehensible stories. People pick up manga theater. They read the first couple things. It starts with Wonder Island. Like, how did this guy get a series? These are terrible. They are terrible. But these are his earliest published works. And it's crazy to look back and see, I see that's Toriyama on the page right there in 1978. Read them fast and move on to the next ones. But this is where Toriyama gets started. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about some drafts because we are quickly closing in on Dr. Slump. This image here comes to us, the official Dragon Ball site, every day, and I'm going to mention this later. They have a column, the nearly complete works of Akira Toriyama, and they share old historical images, things they have. This is something they shared. I think this might have been printed in Birdland Press, his fan club newsletter as well. Ageha Town Observation Diary. Absolutely terrible title for a work. This is a work that never got published. These were just some character designs he had in the works. But what do you see here? You see what's basically going to become Dr. Slump. We got effectively Gachan there. We got little animals. We got squat little dudes. We got a tall dude with cool hair holding a gun. He was really interested in making this, but Toriyama rejected it. This was among the 1,000 pages of rejected manga. But that takes us to Dr. Slump. Sorta. Not quite. We're not there yet. Look at the dates on here. We have Gal Detective Tomato in August 1979. We have Dr. Slump in January 1980. Toriyama was already working on Dr. Slump when Tomato came out. Thing here is, he was going back and forth with Toriyama. They had a challenge. They had a contest. Toriyama thought Arale was going to be a one-off character. I'm going to draw her in the first chapter or two. It's just going to be one of Senbei's inventions, and then we're going to move on. Senbei is the main character of Dr. Slump. Toriyama says, no, I'm your editor. You are wrong. Arale is the main character of this series. But Toriyama is not one to listen to authority, ever, along the way. So they had a contest. What they did was Toriyama was tasked with doing a one-shot, and that became Gal Detective Tomato. Toriyama said, do something with a female protagonist, and if it does well in the polls, you have to make Arale the main character in Dr. Slump. And what happens? Well, Toriyama is right, and so we get Arale as the main character in Dr. Slump. So early on, what do we see in Dr. Slump as it begins? Another funny story about Dr. Slump. Toriyama didn't know you could get an assistant, didn't know how many pages would be in a manga chapter, so they published what he thought were his first 2 chapters of Dr. Slump together at the same time in its debut. He didn't have any more work completed, so he had to cram out what he thought was chapter 3 for chapter 2's debut. Here early in Dr. Slump, what do we see? Absolutely an increased familiarity with the medium. We've got this evolving cast of characters, so we get Akane, we get Pisuke, we get the whole gang here. He's continuing with the straight-up media insertions. They can't really get rid of some of the... Godzilla just shows up, Gamera just shows up, Ultraman just shows up along the way. Toriyama himself shows up as a character in at least 3 different incarnations early in Dr. Slump. We get multi-part stories that grow and grow and grow. What sticks out to me is one of the earliest kind of multi-part stories is when they go to space. It's just a couple chapters long, but it really feels like he's setting the stage for, I can do more than just joke, chapters over. I can tell a story here from chapter to chapter to chapter. He does fall back on old tropes and concepts along the way, but most importantly, dinosaurs, dragons, they are awesome. That color spread there of that dragon, just absolutely incredible. But Dr. Slump goes for a very, very long time. So it evolves even more than its early evolution. We get Mashirito and the Caramel Men. Stop me if you've heard this before. Evil scientist creates a bunch of evil robots to go kill the main character of the series. There's spy robots, too. Started here in Dr. Slump. We get the Grand Prix. We get the Penguin Village Wars. We have really, really solid action paneling here in this comedy series. We get some Chinese-inspired events. Never mind the evil scientists with the robots. We have a growing cast of villains. There's a Majin toward the end of Dr. Slump here. And this is when the media notices that what they have here is one of the richest people in Japan that completely flew under their radar. The media crashes Toriyama's wedding. They show up unannounced and take photos. So this is why we have official photos. These quotes and this photo here come from a magazine called Focus. We have this translated on Kanzenshuu. You can read the entire article here. It's really funny, especially the last quote. What concerns us poor people more than anything is how he will spend all this money. You gotta be kidding me. He doesn't know what to do with the money. He's just buying motorcycles and model kits. It's just whatever. This is great. But here we are, Toriyama, one of the most famous, richest people in Japan, already a household name with Dr. Slump. So all the meanwhile, he's doing some more of these one-shots that we talked about. We get Polar and Roid in 81. We get Escape in 82. That's a highlight for me. It's an amazing little 5-page comic. We get Madmatic and Pink in 82. And then we get Chobit and Chobit 2 in 83. Chobit is a 3-chapter series. I always say that Madmatic is where Toriyama found out how to tell a story. It's incredible. You go from the earliest works there with Wonder Island to something like Madmatic. Just incredible. So these are some of his first longer shots. Polar and Roid, it's like 40-something pages, I think. Dinosaurs and Dragons continues to be cool. Dragon is the best sound effect ever written on a page. Look at this 2-page spread. Just so good. Dumb names. The Gun Army. Army is gun in Japanese. Gun. We get colors for names. We have evil armies with minions. You will see these again and again and again. We are solidly in the era of boy and girl duos. And we got cameos too. We get Arale showing up. Dr. Slump will show up in many things along the way. Did not show up for the first time in Dragon Ball. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Toriyama's working on his Cruddy Comics Lab from 82 to 84. This is a collaboration with Akira Sakuma, who later goes on to put out the video game Momotaro Densetsu, and who will soon become a key contact in putting together Dragon Quest. We'll have a Dragon Quest break along the way. This is a single volume. It was published in Fresh Jump. It's basically how to draw manga direct from Toriyama himself. I don't know how much more you could ask for there. A couple years go by, though. We've hit an impasse. Dr. Slump is over. Dr. Slump, one of the most popular manga series in Japan. You constantly hear, we don't let our manga authors finish the most popular series running right now. So what do? Well, Toriyama's going to work on the new series. He's allowed, quote unquote, to work on a new series, or rather to quit Dr. Slump if he works on the new series. He wants to do something with Kung Fu that sounds cool. He's watching all these movies, loves Jackie Chan. So what we get along the way are a couple prototype works. These are officially described as prototype works in Dragon Ball documentation. We get a 2-chapter series called Dragon Boy, and we get the adventure of Tongpu. So Dragon Boy is over in Fresh Jump, and Tongpu almost exactly a year before Dragon Ball in the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump. What's on display here in these series? I don't know. We've got a Chinese setting. We've got an old guy flying around on a cloud. We've got this young boy in the bath with this girl. By the way, they're shooting at each other with guns here. Young boy, Kung Fu, cutting up wood. We got a pirate robot on a bridge here. We got capsules, house coming out of a capsule. We got transforming animals here. He's basically already there. Dragon Ball is here. But after he does these prototype series, he works on drafts for what will become Dragon Ball itself. And these drafts go through 3 phases. So even after this, we're still working and revising and revising and revising. Initially, it's going to be just exactly Journey to the West, Chinese tale. If you have not read Journey to the West, read the classical works of Chinese literature. It will basically enlighten you to everything that you see in anime and manga. Everything will suddenly make sense to you. But this evolves too. Toriyama really doesn't want to have identifying characteristics in his main character, which is very bizarre. You want your main character to be iconic. Eventually, we do get that tail added on. That's almost his compromise there to have something iconic about the character. Here we are. It's time. This is from the issue before Dragon Ball starts in Weekly Shonen Jump. Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama is back. They're like the gag manga, God is coming back to the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump with, a comedy series, but we're going to see is quickly going to change. Here we are at Dragon Ball. I don't know what you want me to say about Dragon Ball. We go for over 10 years here. We have over 500 chapters, an entire media empire. What do we say? Well, I guess let's just look at what's on display here. Look at the evolving art style of Dragon Ball over this decade. From the earliest pages, dinosaurs and dragons, still cool, still gonna always be cool. I love this shot of Goku showing up. We got Tenshinhan on the ground, the Demon King Piccolo there. Goku, we see a little bit of Bruce Lee influence here at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. Just look at this artwork. We have the line work, the detail. We have examples where he doesn't have something in the background to speed lines in the background. I could have just done 20 slides, just like, look how cool this piece is. Look how cool this is. Isn't this cool? It's cool, right? So I'm not going to do that for an hour, although I would absolutely love to. Let's take a Dragon Quest break instead. Dragon Ball is obviously why many of us are here. But Dragon Quest is happening. This is one of those meanwhiles to the meanwhiles in Toriyama's career. So here's the deal. Kazuhiko Torishima, Toriyama's editor there at Weekly Shonen Jump, he wants to push for development of a game that Shueisha themselves, the company who does Jump, they wouldn't necessarily be responsible for. They wouldn't program the game and put out the game. But they wanted something that they could get exclusive coverage for versus something like Korokoro or Famicom Tsushin competing magazines out there. So what Torishima does is he pitches an RPG, role-playing game, to be headed by Yuji Horii over at Enix, who he met through Akira Sakuma, who was at that time writing for Monthly Playboy. So you can see all the pieces kind of falling into place here. Torishima pitches Toriyama as a potential character designer because he's a huge name in the field. They want to further that connection with Shueisha themselves. Toriyama's oblivious to all this. He has no idea that he's being told this, they're being told this. I haven't told them that you said this. But he's like, yeah, sounds great. It's, Torishima says I should do it, and I'm going to get some side money at the same time. So Torishima told Hori that Toriyama wanted to do the artwork for the game. That never happened. He only later learned it was half true. Torishima orchestrated the whole thing. So what we have on the screen here, over on the left, the line art drawing, black and white, that is Yuji Hori's original design for, here's what I think there should be a slime. And he's just stealing this stuff from other RPGs of the day, Western RPGs, Japanese stuff as well. I want a slime. Toriyama comes back with that thing, smiling. And a legend was born at that moment. That is the slime. That's a screenshot there from the very first Dragon Quest. Slime is almost always the first villain you come across in the Dragon Quest game to this day. What's the result? I could throw a million things on a million slides here. We have character designs for years and years and years. Dragon Quest III, this is on the upper right there. This is from the very first issue of Nintendo Power. Even though we don't have Dragon Quest yet, Nintendo Power can't ignore what a juggernaut it is over here. Has anyone played Yakuza Like a Dragon games here? Certainly you have seen the Dragon Quest influence over the years. Everything from Yakuza 0, side quests there, all the way up to the most current games. Dragon Quest is its own juggernaut. So Toriyama only did the character designs for the game. It's important to say that. We're going to talk about some games. Toriyama doesn't write the story for Dragon Quest. He doesn't do the music. These are all different folks that do those, but he's absolutely part of the holy trinity of what made Dragon Quest a success. So we keep going. We got Dragon Ball going. We got Dragon Quest going. Toriyama's doing one-shots along the whole way. This is crazy to think about. Maybe you don't know this. Dragon Quest is going. Toriyama's doing tons of other manga at the same time. We get Mr. Ho here in 1986. We get 2 contributions to Super Jump, which is another Jump manga that gets launched. Gourmet in Sports is a series of these 4-panel, 4-coma comics. The gods of the gag manga in Japan all contributed to. Lady Red is certainly a thing that maybe offline we can chat about at some other point in time. Kinosuke-sama is in 1987. Soncho, the village elder, here in 1987 as well. What stands out in these one-shots along the way? Some of these character designs look a little familiar. We get a mix of these chibi and taller character designs. Toriyama loves any excuse. Just give me an excuse to draw a vehicle. I want to draw a machine. I want to draw a car. I want to draw a truck. I'd make the truck the main character if I can. Gosh darn it, he tried several times to make the truck the main character. He loves a good military story, and as we see in Lady Red and a little bit in Gourmet in Sports, he's still able and willing to get pretty crude along the way. Dragon Ball's still going. Toriyama's one-shots are still going. In the late 1980s, we get Mamajiro-kun, we get Karamaru in The Perfect Day. Then a couple different ones. We get Rocky and Wolf. Rocky gets published in a doujinshi collection by the friend of his wife, one of the very, very few things that's published outside of a Shueisha publication. And then Wolf, January 1990, but he would have drawn it before 1990 in January, so I'm going to include it here in the late 80s. This is a short comic that's collected in Akira Toriyama The World, one of the many art books for Toriyama stuff that came out. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too. What stands out in these? We're still going with the kid protagonists. They get a little forgettable around this time. He's still not afraid to recycle jokes. Still just wants to draw vehicles. Still using funny ninja characters. Still flexing with a gorgeous color spreads. I think this is maybe the weakest era, mini era, if you will, of his manga, though. If you held a gun to my head and said, what was Mamajiro about right now? Even though I just read it like yesterday, I don't think I could tell you what it was about. So we get to the 90s. Dragon Ball is still going. Toriyama is still going. Shueisha is launching another magazine. We get V-Jump. V-Jump goes through a couple incarnations of trial runs. V-Jump these days, notable for the magazine that Dragon Ball Super is serialized in when it's not on hiatus. But in its earliest days, we got a couple trial issues with that smaller format, that first one on the left with Cashman. Then we got another 4 run of trial issues. And then finally it launches for real with a monthly release in dated for July 1993. And Toriyama's there, front and center, the whole time for the launch of V-Jump. So we do get Cashman, we get Dub and Peter, and we get Go-Go Ackman. All 3 of these. You see a little Viz thing. It's included in Akira Toriyama's manga theater. You can just read these now. I still can't believe that I can just pick a book off my shelf and read Ackman. It's crazy to me. What stands out here from the V-Jump manga? Just super, super clean lines and designs. Think about where we are in Dragon Ball. We're in the Cell arc here. We get an alien who crashes on Earth and needs fuel. You'll hear that not once, not twice, not 3 times. Any excuse to draw a cool car. We get a big focus here on guns and close-up fights. He's extremely skilled at these short one-chapter stories, but that also continue on, and they complete this full arc in and of themselves. And he still brings it with the amazing color pages. A lot of Ackman is in color. Cashman, when it debuts, we get a lot of full color. Unfortunately, we don't get the full color in the Viz release. Viz, anyone? We can do something about that. Maybe the digital release, swap in those color pages. Okay, please, thanks. We're going to take a break. I'm going to stop talking for a second, and you are going to hear from Akira Toriyama himself. So we are, I say we, from Kanzenshuu, are debuting a translation that we have not released anywhere before. This comes from the first Jump original CD in 1993. These are CDs that from the pages of Jump you would submit, and it would be a lottery giveaway. This stuff is available in the secondhand market now, so you can just kind of get them. But I'm going to switch from this over to this. I'm going to play this, and you're going to hear Toriyama in his own words in 1993.
こんにちは、鳥山明です。ドラゴンボールを思いついたきっかけというのはドクタースランプがもうすぐ終わるというあたりで前担当の鳥島さんっていう方が僕が割とジャッキー・チェンとかブルース・リーとかカンフーもののビデオとかを何回も繰り返して見てるのを知ってましたから、そんな絵好きなら一度描いてみないかっていうのがきっかけだったんですけど、僕個人としては結構嫌でしたというのはカンフーもののビデオっていうのは割と自分で楽しいから見てただけで、それを仕事になっちゃうと嫌だなというのがありましたから。でもまあ最初のドクタースランプの場合はあられちゃんっていうのが主人公だったんですけど、まあ、女の子が主人公の漫画を描くよりは抵抗は若干なかったですけどね。ただカンフーものっていうのは要するにビデオとかで見てるだけですから、果たして自分で戦いものの漫画が描けるのかなというそういう不安はすごくありました。そうですね、最初孫悟空というキャラクターは少年誌のこれまでのキャラクターっていうのは割とこう特徴付けがはっきりしてたものをあえて非常に地味なキャラクターにしようと思って最初やったんですけど、やっぱりちょっと見た目にインパクトが弱すぎましたんで髪型を若干変更したり、最初設定にはなかった尻尾を追加したりして、まあ主人公らしくなったんですけど、最初のこう地味にいこうというこだわりは目にハイライトをあえて入れないようにしたのが、唯一僕の最初のこだわりで残ってる部分だと思うんですけど、ざっくばらんに言ってしまうともうすごい行き当たりばったりの作家ですから、次の週のことも考えずに書いてますから、悟空が宇宙人であるというのも全然最初設定にはなかったですし、まして大人になるという設定すらもなかったものですから、だから後で辻褄合わせが非常に大変になってきますね。書いていく上の苦労はやっぱりそうですね、 アイデアも苦労しますよ。特に戦いでしかもどんどんエスカレートしていく漫画ですから、ピッコロ大魔王というのと戦った以降はすごい大変でした。さらに強くさらに強くですから、もうこれ以上強い雰囲気出すの難しいと思って、もう言葉で言ってしまうのが一番簡単かなと思って、以前戦ったやつとは比べ物にならないと言いながらやってることはそんなに変わらないんですけど、なるべくもっと迫力のある見せ方ができないかなとは考えてはいるんですけど、なかなか実行できないって言いますか、漫画家になったきっかけっていうのは、広告代理店の会社に勤めてまして、20代前半の頃、そこをもう遅刻ばっかりしてまして辞めまして、先のこと全然考えずに辞めたもんですから、それでもうどんどんお金なくなっちゃって、もういい若者がおふくろからお金借りてるわけですよ。喫茶店行きたいから250円貸してくんないかとか、喫茶店で漫画読んでたら懸賞金の募集がありまして、漫画小学校の時好きだったし書いてみようかななんて思って、懸賞金欲しさに送ったんですけど、ボツになりまして、あれと思って、結構もう井の中の蛙ですから、結構それからもう将来の負けず嫌いで、じゃあ賞金もらえるまでは書こうと思って、結局賞金もらえないまま、デビューしちゃったっていうのが最初ですね。
Great. I timed that out real well because that translation just went live on Kanzenshuu right this second. So stay tuned. At the end of the panel, there's going to be a QR code you can scan. I have a page already set up. You get links to the translations we talked about, some of the other resources, things to buy. So stay tuned for that. Incredible. Toriyama, think about what kind of a recluse he was. I was just talking about this with friends earlier today. Toriyama did an interview on the TV show Tetsuko's Room early in his career. Incredibly awkward, had no idea what he was saying. He said afterward he had no recollection of even doing the interview. He was so nervous and awkward about it. You can hear a little bit there in his interview, a little bit of the awkward Toriyama, but really incredible to hear it from his own words there. All right, Dragon Ball's over. Toriyama's done. That's it. Everyone go home. No, meanwhile, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. Again, we can't talk about everything. There's just so much stuff. Cashman continues, not by Toriyama. Dr. Slump returns for a little bit, not by Toriyama. Perhaps you've heard The Adventure of Dai, a manga series, not by Toriyama. GT. Did you know that Dr. Slump aired, then Dragon Ball aired, then Dragon Ball Z aired, then Dragon Ball GT aired, then Dr. Slump aired after that again? They just kept rebooting things along the way. There's other folks doing things, Takao Koyama, Katsuyoshi Nikatsuru, working on continuations of Toriyama's series beyond the scope of this conversation, but talk to me later. Dragon Ball's over, but Toriyama's not done. The late 1990s, we get his first post-Dragon Ball serializations. We get Alien Peke, which is 2 chapters. 96, so it's only like a year after Dragon Ball. He's already going here again. We get Toki Mecha in 96 to 97, and we get Booble of Demon Village. Here we go with the aliens and time travel and caveman and demons. And that's really what stands out. We get an alien who crash lands on Earth and needs cash, or at I think number 3 on that one now. Still with the guns. It's a post-Dragon Ball ever-evolving art style. We're really starting to see what will become the Kanzenban era of Toriyama's artwork. The Kanzenban was a re-release of the Dragon Ball manga from 2002 to 2004. Toriyama did all new artwork for the covers and the back on it, and we see what he's up to there. He's bringing back a bit of the wonder in his stories at this time. Dinosaurs and dragons, still cool. This is where series lengths start getting weird. 14, 12, 1, 8, 1, 14, 1. Late 1990s, we have even more. We have Koa here, available from Viz. We have Kajika. We have Mahi Mahi the Lungfish, which might be one of my new favorite series. This is little mermaid just poking at this lungfish, going, hey, do something. Do something. Move. And the fish is like, I'm nocturnal. Leave me alone. It's just really great. And we have Hyotama as well. And another side publication, E-Jump, which was a book that came out. It was a magazine. It had some CD-ROM material as well. What stands out here? think of the drafts that we saw with Ageha into Dr. Slump, with Dragon Boy and Chongpu into Dragon Ball. Booble was basically a prototype for what came into as Koa later on. It's a full series. Toriyama's starting to transition to digital coloring, but he's still absolutely drawing everything by hand. We get lots of short, stubby characters again, while also switching it up with new designs. Incredible as always with the action when he wants. Incredible as always with the humor when he wants. Release Kajika in English, you cowards. The 2000s serialization continues from Toriyama. We have Nekomajin. So I'm fudging the dates a little bit. You saw that with Wolf earlier on. Nekomajin technically starts in 1999, but it goes to 2005, so I'm going to consider that the 2000s. Sandland, anyone heard of Sandland? You might have heard of Sandland recently. Sandland was from 2000. That was when that first came out in Weekly Shonen Jump. We get Tochio the Angel, which is Toriyama's first full-length children's picture book in 2003 there. I still vividly remember when the Kanzenban was announced. There was this image of Goku on the left and this image of Tochio on the right. We had no idea what was happening at the time. Toriyama's releasing new things. Is there a new Dragon Ball series coming out? It was a re-release of Dragon Ball, and then a children's picture book is what we got. Then a couple years go by and we get Dr. Mashirito Abale-chan, which is a short sequel return to the Dr. Slump universe. What stands out here? We are onward into the Demons and Angels era. I have Muniel here, not originally from 2000, obviously from the sequel material in Sandland, but what I think is just incredible about that character, feels like it belongs in 2000. They nailed that characterization. Toriyama is doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants at this time in his career. But what we see is that he's starting to come back to Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball a little bit. We get Abale-chan, and then we get Nekomajin, which starts as a couple chapters that have really nothing to do with Dragon Ball outside of Kung Fu rabbit cat thing. But then we get Nekomajin Z, which is clearly Dragon Ball, and in fact is the canonical continuation of the Dragon Ball series. You heard it here first. 2010s, he's still going. We get Kintoki, a single chapter one-shot in 2010. We get Mr. Yu, you might see Mr. Wu as well, of Delicious Island. I think this is maybe my second favorite new thing. And by new, I mean it came out 11 years ago. And then Jaco the Galactic Patrolman. Perhaps you've heard of Jaco. That did come out here in English. That came out alongside Battle of Gods and the big revival era in 2013. What do we see here in these series? Nothing particularly new in terms of setup, but I really think this is the most refined and on point that Toriyama had ever been. We get this super clean line work, but there's also so much detail in the drawings. Some of the best dry humor, and that's Toriyama at his best that we've had in a long time. We had his assistant Matsuyama team up with him for Mr. Yu for the first time in years and years and years and years and years. That was the one that Toriyama, again, had to get special permission. This is for a pamphlet called Biosphere that came out in Japan. It was like agricultural board we want to promote. It's about these folks that go to this wonderful land where they're all farming and the food is delicious, and they go back to the city and the food tastes like crap, and like, oh, we should go, yes, everyone in Japan, go back to the farmland. And it didn't really work, but the kids love the comic, so I think these might be some of his best works ever. I just love, love, love this era of Toriyama. Meanwhile, he's doing collaborations along the way. We get, this is the police station in front of Dragon Park on Planet Namek. You've heard of Kochikame, one of, again, the gods of gag manga here, Osamu Akimoto. We get a continuation of a short chapter, what was it, like 17 years earlier? They get the team back together and do a sequel. Ryosan, the police officer, writes Frieza a parking ticket for his spaceship. We got Cross Epoch with Oda in Jump here. It was actually, I think, released on Christmas in 2006 there. We get Sachie Changgood and Gia, his collaborations with BFF Masakazu Katsura. Read interviews with Toriyama and Katsura together. My favorite one, I think, is from Daizenshuu 7. There's like, it's basically his Kramer moment. It's like, suddenly Katsura appears in the room, and like the audience cheers, even though it's just the interviewer there. This is the debut of the Galactic Patrol, years before Jaco and years before what you see in Dragon Ball Super. Again, we're doing a whirlwind tour here of Toriyama's works, and we only have so much time. I could talk for about 3 hours about this. We know that Toriyama was a manga author. Did you know he worked on a million other things? He did, yes, manga. He did character designs. He did magazine covers. He did event illustrations. He did movie scripts. We didn't even talk about all this stuff. Look at this. He did mecha designs for Gulliver Boy, the TV series, character designs for Tobal, designed Beerus. He redesigned Beerus. You probably heard the story. Beerus was originally going to be a lizard who infected the Saiyans with evil. Toriyama, there's a whole thing there about they ignored me on evolution. I didn't know this was in the works. Battle of Gods was in the works without Toriyama. Torishima comes in, nudges him, and says, hey, they're doing stuff without you again. He comes in, he's like, nah, get rid of all this. He's going to be my cat. Meanwhile, he's designing the arcade machine for the first Dragon Ball Z arcade game. He's doing model kits. We got Blue Dragon. He's doing consultation for filler in the TV series. Here we have a couple designs. We have the Sufurians. We have Gregory. Toriyama designed those. Anyone here heard of Chrono Trigger? Just a little incidental thing in history. Not really important here. It's Toriyama, it's Yuji Horii, and Hironobu Sakaguchi. That's the dream team right there. If you haven't played Chrono Trigger, please play Chrono Trigger. Here are some of my favorite things. We got the V-Jump cover. So I mentioned V-Jump went through a couple trial runs. This is the July 1993 cover. We got Dr. Slump on there. We get this, the zoo in Nagoya. He is the emblem for them. Character designs there in the upper right, those are for the first Famicom Dragon Ball game, The Legend of Shenlong. We got it as Dragon Power here in the US. That is Kurillian. Kudidin, alien, combined into a character. Toriyama designed him. Toriyama did designs for this orchestra. He did more modeling. This is the Junk Geezer from 1991 in the commercial. So much of this stuff is available in art books. But again, a good source of this is the nearly complete works of Akira Toriyama on the official Dragon Ball site. They put up a column for 24 hours and then they take it down. Usually I'm the person on archive.org saving that URL every day, so you can still go back and check out most of that stuff. Still to come. What should we expect in the future? Again, we lost Toriyama earlier this year, but his impact and work is still continuing. Dragon Quest XII, we don't have a date or anything like that for it. He almost certainly completed whatever character designs he was doing for the game. I guarantee you did the main character design. If there's any more monster designs, he usually does some more monster designs. Dragon Ball Daima is apparently debuting in October this year. This is another thing that Toriyama heard was in the works without him, came in and basically took it over. And the word from him and other folks is the most involved he's been in a long time in something. So can't wait to see what he's got in store for us. So I want to talk a little bit about, as we round things out here, what makes Toriyama tick as a creator, as an artist, as an author. Toriyama never met a joke he didn't like to reuse, and then reuse again. And then maybe also again. I love his dry humor. This almost isn't even a joke. The punchline here is when the can says properly dispose of or throw empty cans in the trash. He just uses that like 3 times in 3 different series. Sometimes he gets hung up on a phrase and he just doesn't. You've made the joke, but did you know Toriyama made the joke before you? Everyone has the same face, it's just different hair on top of that same face design. We have Akane and Midori here from Dr. Slump. Akane does this joke early on, and then later they capitalize on it and they team up for a competition because they look the same. Editors as characters. Toriyama, again, does not respect authority. He constantly turned in his manuscripts late, so there would be no time for revisions. What he put on the page is what gets published. He turned his editor, Torishima, into Mashi Rito, the evil doctor from Dr. Slump. Torishima was also the inspiration for Piccolo in Dragon Ball. We haven't mentioned the other editors, Yu Kondo and Takeda. Apparently Frieza and Buu were modeled off of them, respectively. In Jump Superstars, have you played Jump Superstars and Jump Ultimate Stars for the Nintendo DS? Just some of the best games ever released. There is a special move where Mashi Rito and Piccolo can fuse into this monstrosity here in the bottom right corner, further solidifying their role there. In conclusion, Akira Toriyama and Stephen King are the same person. They do not outline. They do a bunch of fix-up works to revisit and perfect their formulas. They later return to their works with short sequels. The author himself is a character in his works. They accidentally reuse names. If there's an option to over-explain something, they will take it. Really like cars. They want to do anything else but sci-fi, but that's what they're best at. They have a significant female readership while being kind of bad at writing them. And they're bad at endings, or sometimes they're thought of being bad at endings, or not necessarily bad at endings. Hey, Doug, it's time for a trivia break. These questions are exclusively for Doug here up front. Please do not yell out the answers. Doug, what was the name of Toriyama's first professionally published manga one-shot?
Am I supposed to be paying attention?
Yeah. What was the first one-shot, Doug?
The first one-shot,
First-
as you know, Mike.
Professionally published, yes.
Professionally.
Yes.
We all saw it. We were all here from the beginning. We saw you talk about it. I'm just gonna let you explain it though, because I don't wanna mispronounce it and offend everyone. So why don't you go ahead?
All right. So the first one was Wonder Island. Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity,
Mike.
Doug. Yeah, you
Wonder
got
Island,
it.
of course.
Wonder Island's really bad. Skip over it. Doug, who was Akira Toriyama's first editor?
Oh, that was Piccolo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I'll give you half a point for that. Can we get that?
Half
on
is more
official
than what I
record?
usually get, so thank you.
Yeah. Toriyama's first editor is Kazuhiko Torishima, the other half of the Tori team. Doug, what's the big RPG series he designed for?
The big one was Dragon Quest.
Yeah, you got it. All
Yes.
right, 1.5 points, Doug.
Not Chrono Trigger. I almost said that.
Love it. You did great, Doug.
Yay!
Thank you
Can I
for
go to the
your-
dealer's room now?
Yeah, you can go. Thank you. All right, so if you're here, we're running out of time. You're like, I got to buy things. All this stuff. Toriyama did so many things. Still available in Japanese. Let's start in Japanese first. So I mentioned Wolf was published in Akira Toriyama The World. Came out in 1990. It's actually just recently got another reprint, so you can just buy it off of Amazon Japan. The Dragon Ball, the Super Art Collection, the Chogashu, came out, I want to say about a decade ago. That is still regularly available. It's basically an update of the first Kanzenshuu, the complete illustrations. And then for a couple of Dragon Quest recommendations, for the 25th, I think, anniversary, the Monster designs from Toriyama, that's an incredible book to pick up. And then more recently, just the overall Dragon Quest illustrations, you can pick that up. Some of these are available in English. So the released Dragon Ball, A Visual History from Viz, that is an English version of the Chogashu, the Super Art Collection. So you can just grab that. Back in 2008, Viz did put out the first Kanzenshuu and then nothing else. But that's happened in other countries too. I'm not surprised there. But A Visual History is an updated version of Kanzenshuu 1. Don't feel like you have to get Kanzenshuu 1. Just get A Visual History. And then this Dragon Quest Illustrations book is that Dragon Quest Illustrations book available from Viz. And it's got translated comments from Hori and Toriyama in the back. Reminder, these are available in English. So you heard a mention of Manga Theater. Koa, Sandland, Jaco are all available in English. The entirety of Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump are available in English. Things go in and out of print over the years, but they're available digitally. I think all of this stuff is available on Viz's Digital Vault collection. You pay $3 for a month. You can just go read all of this. My 16-year-old self cannot fathom that this is an opportunity to readers today. Some things that are in English, sorta. So Nekko Majin Z 5, the last chapter, was published once in English, a single time, in October 2007 in the now defunct print edition of Viz's Shonen Jump magazine, issue 58. So head on over to eBay for that one. Cross Epoch was published in February 2011 in issue 100 of the same aforementioned Viz Shonen Jump print magazine. Sometimes that gets put in with One Piece bundles, so you can still sort of come across that these days. Sachi-chan Good, yeah, the first entry in the Galactic Patrol series, was released in the Shonen Jump Alpha Yearbook 2013. If you were a subscriber at the time, you got a print book in the mail that had the first half of it. But if you were a subscriber, it's in your digital library. That's it. Never been anywhere else. And then Kintoki was released in January 2013, back when Viz was doing the digital weekly Shonen Jump. That does occasionally get thrown into some Dragon Ball bundles, so you'll see that sometimes. Thank you. Scan the QR code. This is going to take you to a page on Kanzenshuu right now that is live. You're going to get a link to the interview that I played earlier. You can read that transcription. The Focus magazine, where the media crashed Toriyama's wedding. Links to purchase all the Japanese books, the English books, all of that is there. I'm going to come right back to this slide, but I just want to say, any Q&A time, or are we done? We are not done. We got a couple of minutes here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, I am so honored to talk about the late and great Akira Toriyama, who has defined the course of my life. I'm so appreciative.